Hello, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I wish you all a pleasant listening experience. Today, the book I'm going to interpret for you is Decisive, and its straightforward subtitle summarizes the main theme of the entire book: how to make better choices in life and work. More and more people nowadays believe that choosing the right direction is more important than working hard. However, making the right choices is not easy. Often, we find ourselves regretting wrong decisions. Some choose the wrong major, study for 4 years, and discover no interest in it, only to graduate and become unemployed. Some choose the wrong job, working overtime to the point of exhaustion, dealing with office politics at the same time. Others choose the wrong life partner, realizing after marriage that their values don't align, leading to constant arguments over trivial matters. So, what exactly hinders us from making the right choices, and what methods can help us make better decisions? The book, Decisive, aims to address these two questions. The authors of this book, Chip Heath and Dan Heath, are brothers. One is a professor at Stanford University's Business School, and the other is a senior researcher at Duke University. This elite duo has published many best-selling psychology books, from making creativity stick to making decisions. Each one has been both critically acclaimed and popular. Decisive is one of their flagship works, translated into 17 languages and receiving praise worldwide. In this book, the authors break down the decision-making process into 4 stages: facing the choice, analyzing options, making the choice, and accepting the outcome. Let's take the example of job hunting. First, we list the companies we're interested in, which is the facing the choice stage. Then, we compare the conditions of various companies and select a few favorites for interviews, which is the analyzing options stage. If the interviews go smoothly and multiple job offers come in, we must choose one, marking the making the choice stage. However, this doesn't mean the choice is finalized. We need to be prepared for the possibility of mistakes and be ready to adjust if things don't go as expected, which is the accepting the outcome stage. In each of these 4 stages, there are obstacles that hinder us from making the right choices. The book provides rich solutions to overcome these obstacles and presents an efficient 4-stage method to help us make better decisions. Below, I will introduce this 4-stage method in conjunction with the obstacles in each stage. 1. Widen your options, overcome narrow thinking. 2. Reality test your assumptions, overcome confirmation bias. 3. Attain some distance before deciding, overcome short-term emotions. 4. Prepare to be wrong, overcome overconfidence. Sure, here is the translation of the provided text. Okay, let's start with the first step of the 4-stage method, expanding the choice space and overcoming narrow thinking. In the first stage of facing a choice, people often encounter the obstacle of narrow thinking. Narrow thinking means that at the very beginning, we limit our choices to an extremely small range, so much so that we don't even see the right options, let alone choose them. For example, a girl who frequently argues with her boyfriend might think she has only 2 options in such a situation: either endure it and try to avoid arguments, or simply break up and find someone with a better temperament. However, neither of these is the best choice. A better choice would be for both of them to sit down calmly and discuss the reasons behind their arguments, whether it's a communication issue or differences in perspectives. They could try making changes to reduce conflicts or even consider seeking couples counseling for professional advice. The problem is, if they haven't thought about these alternatives from the start, how can they possibly choose them? So, the first step in making the right choice is to broaden your choice space, enabling you to see more possibilities and thereby overcome narrow thinking. But how do you overcome narrow thinking? The author provides 3 specific suggestions. First, you can conduct an option elimination test. Ask yourself, if none of the existing options were available, what else could I do? This question serves as a reminder not to assume that there are only a few choices at hand. For instance, if you really want to buy a gaming console but find it a bit expensive, your initial thought might be limited to either buying it or not. However, by conducting an option elimination test, you might realize that there are several other options, such as looking for cheaper second-hand consoles online or inviting friends over to play. Suddenly, you have more potential solutions. The second method to overcome narrow thinking is to employ multi-tracking, where you avoid predefining your thoughts and consider multiple options. The book gives an example of Lexicon, a company specializing in naming products for other companies, including the BlackBerry business smartphone. When Lexicon was tasked with naming this smartphone, they used a multi-tracking approach, assigning several teams to brainstorm ideas in different directions. Some teams were even given vague directions without specific client information, allowing them to brainstorm freely. This method eventually led the company to discover the classic name, BlackBerry, which, although seemingly unrelated to business phones, resembled the shape of phone keys and conveyed a more lively and playful image compared to the dullness associated with business phones. When collecting options, it's essential to maintain an open mindset and not restrict your thinking from the start. This often leads to finding suitable options from unexpected sources. The final method to overcome narrow thinking is to climb the ladder. When facing a problem for which you can't think of a solution, look at how others have tackled similar challenges. For example, if you're a supermarket manager trying to address long checkout lines, where do you begin? The author suggests starting from within your own supermarket by identifying which checkout counter has the fastest processing speed compared to the others. If you find one, you can promote the methods used at that counter. If not, you can move up one level and visit other supermarkets in the same city to see how they've tackled this issue. If no solution is found there, you can continue climbing up the ladder to explore the practices of similar industries, like various sports arenas and amusement parks, where queuing for services is common. With each level you climb, you'll broaden your view of the problem, access more reference points, and naturally discover more potential solutions. To summarize, in the facing the choice stage, the obstacle is narrow thinking, which prevents people from recognizing the existence of optimal choices. There are 3 methods to overcome narrow thinking: option elimination testing, multi-tracking, and climbing the ladder. Next, let's talk about the second step of the 4 decision-making methods, putting assumptions to the test and overcoming confirmation bias. In the second stage of analyzing options, people often encounter the obstacle of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias refers to the tendency we have when comparing various options to be influenced by our biases, seeing some options through colored glasses, and only focusing on information that confirms our biases. For instance, during a stock market boom, many newcomers might enter the market, seeing only those who make huge profits and ignoring those who suffer significant losses. This can lead to the absurd conclusion that investing in stocks always guarantees profits. In reality, many end up losing their savings and becoming sheep, a term used to describe naive investors who follow the crowd. To overcome confirmation bias, it's essential to test assumptions against reality and avoid subjective guesswork. The author provides 3 specific methods to achieve this. The first method is to consider the opposite scenario. Have the courage to seek out different perspectives. For example, General Motors CEO Sloan once asked in a meeting, regarding this issue, "Have we reached a unanimous consensus, right?" After everyone nodded in agreement, Sloan unexpectedly suggested postponing the discussion on the issue until the next meeting to allow more time for diverse viewpoints. He understood that in large companies, it's easy to develop a groupthink atmosphere. To avoid future judgment errors, it's crucial to actively seek dissenting voices. Some companies and organizations even appoint a role commonly known as the devil's advocate, whose job is to present opposing viewpoints to stimulate vigorous discussion and achieve a more comprehensive evaluation of proposals. The second method to overcome confirmation bias is the combination of 2 perspectives, the outside view and the inside view. The outside view emphasizes that, compared to subjective judgments, objective statistical data is more valuable and accurate in reflecting reality. For example, let's say a person named Xiao Wang wants to open a Sichuan restaurant in a bustling area. He may initially believe that there are many favorable conditions, such as heavy foot traffic and no competing restaurants nearby. Additionally, he's skilled in Sichuan cuisine. However, if data shows that 60% of restaurants in the vicinity closed within 2 years, Xiao Wang, despite his confidence, should seriously reconsider. Yet, relying solely on the outside view may not be accurate enough. It's best to combine it with a close-up lens to understand specific details. After considering both perspectives, make a decision. To continue with the restaurant example, statistical data alerts Xiao Wang to the high risk in the area. However, he should also investigate why restaurants closed and what surviving ones did differently. Perhaps he'll discover that the local population prefers spicy food, and the closed restaurants failed because they offered bland dishes. Armed with this insight, he can confidently proceed with his Sichuan restaurant. The last method to overcome confirmation bias is straightforward: practical experimentation. Nothing is as persuasive as real-life experience when it comes to testing predictions and ideas. Many entrepreneurs share this mindset. A survey found that 60% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies didn't write a business plan when starting their companies. One entrepreneur even said, "I don't believe in market research, I choose to sell the product directly." This approach is also prevalent in the development of internet products: start small, iterate rapidly, and don't wait for everything to be perfect. As long as there's a workable idea, create a simple prototype, launch it into the market, gather user feedback, and adjust based on that feedback. This principle applies to various fields. If you're unsure about your choice of graduate program, consider auditing courses from different disciplines to see which one aligns with your preferences. When interviewing a designer, if you encounter someone with strong artistic skills but perceived communication weaknesses, don't hesitate to give them a 1-month trial to see how they perform. In summary, in the stage of analyzing options, the obstacle is confirmation bias, which prevents us from objectively assessing situations. There are 3 methods to overcome confirmation bias: considering opposite scenarios to discover different viewpoints, using a combination of outside and inside views for a more comprehensive assessment, and conducting practical experiments to test the accuracy of our assumptions. Now let's discuss the 3rd step of the 4 decision-making methods: creating distance for decision-making and overcoming short-term emotions. In the 3rd stage of making choices, the obstacle often encountered is short-term emotions. Even if we have objectively analyzed the pros and cons, we can still be influenced by emotions like anger, greed, or fear and make impulsive decisions. This situation is not uncommon in real life. For example, some husbands frequently engage in domestic violence but then plead for forgiveness after each incident. People around them advise the wife to make a determined decision to leave, but she remains emotionally attached and cannot bring herself to leave, subjecting herself to repeated harm. Similarly, some individuals genuinely desire a new job, aware that it offers better prospects, but they are paralyzed by the fear of taking risks and cannot muster the courage to change jobs. The 3rd step in making the right choice is to distance oneself from current emotions and maintain perspective while making a decision, thereby overcoming short-term emotions. 2 main methods are discussed here. The first method involves asking oneself questions before making a decision. Questions such as, how will I view this decision 10 minutes from now? What about in 10 months? How about in 10 years? These questions are illustrated through Anne's story in the book. Anne had been dating Carl for 9 months and believed he was the perfect match. However, she also worried about their future together. Carl was 9 years older, had been divorced once, and had a daughter. If they stayed together, it would entail various uncertainties. Anne was hesitant about whether to confess her feelings and take their relationship to the next level. The author encouraged Anne to imagine how she would feel at different time intervals after making her decision. Anne realized that, 10 minutes after confessing, she might feel nervous but proud of her courage. 10 months later, she did not anticipate regret because she believed Carl was worth the risk. Looking ahead 10 years, Anne felt she could accept whatever outcome, whether they remained together or not. Consequently, the answer became clear, and decided to confess. According to the author, we often give excessive weight to our current feelings and neglect the future. The technique of questioning the future allows us to step outside our present emotions and take a more rational perspective on our choices. The second method to overcome short-term emotions involves asking ourselves what advice we would give to our best friend if they were facing the same decision. Psychologists have discovered that when we make choices, we are easily influenced by 2 short-term emotions, the exposure effect and loss aversion. The exposure effect means that we tend to prefer what's familiar and dislike the unfamiliar. Psychologists conducted an experiment where they showed participants 2 photos, one with their own face and another with their face mirrored horizontally. Surprisingly, participants preferred the mirrored image because it was what they were used to seeing in the mirror. Loss aversion, on the other hand, refers to the idea that the pain of losing is greater than the pleasure of gaining. Studies have shown that people need to earn at least twice what they lose to feel compensated for their losses. When these 2 short-term emotions combine, they can lead us to maintain the status quo and avoid stepping out of our comfort zone to try new things. However, when we offer advice to others, we can easily overcome these emotions. For example, if a friend asks whether they should change jobs, we consider factors such as whether the new job will make them feel more valued or help them earn more money. When it comes to our own decisions, we tend to worry about details like changes in the work environment or parental objections. We can make wiser decisions by treating ourselves as we would treat our best friends in similar situations. In summary, during the stage of making choices, the obstacle is short-term emotions, which can lead to impulsive decisions. To overcome this, we can imagine how our future selves will perceive the decision and provide advice to ourselves as if we were advising our best friends. Now, let's talk about the fourth and final point, preparing for mistakes and overcoming overconfidence. In the last stage of accepting the results, the obstacle people often face is overconfidence. This happens because they believe too strongly in their predictions about the future and neglect to prepare for unexpected events. Many individuals tend to believe that the choices they make are infallible, but unexpected events are inevitable. Even if a decision is initially correct, it may no longer be suitable as circumstances change. Let's take Kodak film as an example. In an era before digital cameras, Kodak was a dominant force in the photography industry. However, due to its failure to keep up with the digital photography trend, it filed for bankruptcy in 2013. In reality, as early as 1981, Kodak had begun to focus on digital photography and even formed a dedicated team to assess the future development of digital photography. Ultimately, they concluded that digital electronics were too expensive and unaffordable for the masses, and the print quality of digital images was inferior to film. Consequently, they believed digital photography would not replace traditional film. Kodak's judgment in 1981 appeared sound at the time. Over a decade later, digital photography still couldn't compete with film due to its shortcomings. However, technology continually advanced, and by the end of the 20th century, digital photography became mainstream, offering lower costs and improved image quality. Kodak, due to overconfidence and a lack of awareness of these changes, continued to focus on film technology and was eventually left behind by the digital photography revolution. So, the fourth step in making the right choice is to prepare for mistakes and consider the possibility of unexpected events. This helps overcome overconfidence. The author provides 3 methods to achieve this. The first method is bookending the future. This involves setting expectations for the future within a range, considering both the best and worst case scenarios. When thinking about the best case scenario, we should ask ourselves what preparations we would need to make if everything goes perfectly. For instance, if you are the owner of a mobile phone company and believe you've developed a revolutionary phone that will be incredibly popular, you should consider what challenges might arise if it indeed becomes a massive success. You may realize that the phone's production capacity could be significantly strained, so you should plan ahead by ordering enough supplies to meet the potential demand. When contemplating the worst-case scenario, we should ask ourselves what could cause this plan to fail. For example, even if you are extremely confident that the phone will sell well, you should consider potential reasons it might not, such as pricing issues, inadequate marketing, or unexpected hardware problems. By addressing these concerns proactively, you are better prepared for whatever comes your way. The second method is to set up an alarm that triggers at the right time to remind us to reassess our actions. An example from the book is the band Van Halen. Before their concerts, the band would provide a thick contract with numerous requirements to the venue. Buried within these demands was a request for a bowl of M&M candies, but with all the brown ones removed. This may seem unreasonable, but it served as a clever alarm system. If the venue didn't follow the contract closely and failed to provide the correctly prepared M&Ms, it indicated they likely hadn't paid attention to more critical safety and technical details. This concept of an alarm can be applied to various aspects of life. A simple alarm could be setting a boundary for yourself. Once you reach that boundary, it's a signal to reevaluate your actions. For example, if you're trying to control your diet for weight loss, don't rely solely on your willpower to stop eating when you've had enough. Instead, serve your meals in smaller bowls or plates. When you finish one, it acts as an alarm to remind you that you've had enough, and you're less likely to overindulge. The third method is to have faith in the process. When we are overconfident, we tend to overlook potential risks. Processes are designed to help us methodically identify and address risks, so they should be trusted. Airlines, for example, use detailed checklists and procedures before a flight takes off. The checklist is carefully followed, and each item is signed off. This rigorous process minimizes the chances of errors and accidents. Trusting the process allows us to make more confident and calculated decisions because we know they have been tested and analyzed thoroughly. In summary, during the stage of accepting results, the obstacle is overconfidence, which can lead to a lack of preparedness for unexpected events. To overcome overconfidence, 3 methods are provided: bookending the future, setting alarms for reassessment, and having faith in the process. Here, we've covered most of the content in the book, The Power of Decision Making. Let's briefly recap the main points of the entire book. The process of making choices can be divided into 4 stages: facing choices, analyzing options, making decisions, and accepting outcomes. The book introduces a 4-part decision-making framework to overcome obstacles at each stage and assist us in making the best choices. Step 1. Broaden your choice space. Overcome narrow thinking by using techniques such as option elimination, multi-object tracking, and ladder climbing to discover better choices. Step 2. Put assumptions to the test. Overcome confirmation bias by considering opposite scenarios, using an external perspective combined with a close-up view, and practical experimentation to avoid subjective judgments. Step 3. Create distance when deciding. Overcome short-term emotions by using the future questioning method and imagining how you would advise a friend facing the same issue to make more rational decisions. Step 4. Prepare for mistakes. Overcome overconfidence by preparing for unexpected events, setting alarms to trigger reassessment, and trusting the decision-making process. And that's a wrap. Congratulations on finishing another book. We appreciate your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom and practice to achieve our financial goals and create a better future. Thank you all, and goodbye.